Yeah, we get good guidance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll call the meeting to order. I guess we could do a roll call to confirm a quorum.
Chairman Bakey.
Present.
Vice Chair Baez-Rose.
Present.
Member DeJesus.
Present.
Member Lasher.
Present.
Member Tenzar.
Here.
Member Shea.
Present.
Member Boutte. Member DePesa. Member Rourke.
Well, we do have a quorum, so thank you for that. First item of business this evening is a review of the minutes from the September 26th meeting for approval. Do we have any discussion?
So moved.
For a second? Any further questions? All those in favor?
All right.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, new business this evening. First item we have is an eligibility application for 1+ Lowell. Is there anybody here representing 1+ Lowell? I don't need to go into a whole lot of detail, but as we did at the September meeting, this is just an eligibility application. So at this point, we're not reviewing or really discussing the merits of the application. We are addressing whether it's eligible under the rules of the program. The application has been submitted by the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership for $500,000 of CPA funding for the support of community housing. The applicant proposes to utilize the funds to continue an affordable homeownership program, providing interest rate buy-downs on 30-year fixed-rate mortgages to low and moderate-income first-time homebuyers. The applicant is currently seeking an eligibility determination. Do we have any thoughts from the members?
Yeah. It's my understanding that this is a late filing. When was the filing deadline? How late were they? And why should we consider it?
Well, let's start with the first couple of very factual questions. Staff?
Yep, give me 1 second. Just pull up these there.
Oh, sorry, Dylan.
Yeah, the deadline for eligibility forms was September 5th. We received this one September 20th, right after the last meeting. So,
Okay. I think we actually, as a board, we set that deadline. I don't think that's statutory or anything like that. So I think we probably have the discretion to waive that deadline if we wish. We obviously also have the discretion to adhere to it. So I guess in determining eligibility here, given that this is a program we funded in the past, I don't think it's really as much a question of is it eligible under the program rules, but is it eligible under our rules with respect to the deadline?
Yeah, my concern is, and I don't know about anybody else, but my concern is, okay, what if there were other people out there that wanted to file after the deadline, and why bother setting a deadline if we're not going to use it? That's just the way I feel, and you guys may feel differently. I'm just looking at it, and it sounds like it's a great program. It sounds like it's been funded before. But, at a certain point, I would imagine we set a deadline for a reason so we can get everybody in, so we can get everybody lined up, so we can hear them. So,
I would follow up if they're sorry.
Yeah.
Remember, is there precedent for us having gone past our predetermined deadline in the past?
I don't believe so.
I can't remember.
No, for sure.
there was one application that was filed late last year, for the report of the Girls Inc. application.
Did we accept that one for consideration?
That one was accepted.
Well, I guess there's precedent.
So there is precedent. And then the open discussion of whether we continue and believe that's what we should be doing.
Yeah, I think it sounds like what we really would need is a vote of the board. Well, first a vote of the board to decide whether we want to accept the application late, essentially waiving the deadline for this one. Then we would need an application determination if we so chose to accept it by waiving the deadline.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, the Merrimack Valley Housing Partnership, they've been around for a long time.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, they've done a lot of good work in the community. And because they missed the deadline by 8 or 10 days, this isn't a new outfit coming forth. This is an outfit that I have a feeling is pretty well versed, and mistakes do happen. And I would like to, and I think the point is, you're right, we've already agreed to the funding for this in the past. and it's just an add-on, and they're entitled to come back each year. I think I was told that at a recent meeting, planning director. And so, no, and I learned that, but by listening to it. And it just seems to me that this isn't a new person, a new group, a body coming forward. This is an established group, and they've done a lot of good in the community. And I think they really want to move ahead. And this is a time when we really have to do something about the housing crisis. So, for the record, I would vote to extend it.
You would make a motion, make that into a motion?
Yes, I do.
All right, if I could continue discussion for one more question, along the line. Dylan or Giovanni, is there any additional difficulties that get placed upon you when something is past deadline, or is it just a case of making sure it fits into one of our, our meetings?
It's just a case of scheduling on the meeting, and we would have to, obviously we'd have to submit a full application, so we'd have to schedule that on.
Yep. Okay. And so then I would ask, because I agree, I would be afraid long-term in setting a precedent, because eventually it's only going to get to a point where at some point we have to say no. I would have no objection to moving forward because there has already been precedent set, but I think it would be a good idea for us at the end of this year maybe to make it more known to everyone that we're trying to work towards a harder deadline. Maybe is something that we could do to accept this, but then look to try to make sure we don't turn this into a slippery slope.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be my addition to the motion.
Just one more thought on that. And, I hear Mr. Shea, and he obviously makes some good points. It's just the other question I have is that if we do this, what about these other entities that said, oh, damn, I'm past the deadline and didn't apply? So, I think it makes sense, this time, but certainly moving forward, to me, there's no sense having a deadline. We might as well either eliminate the deadlines or set a deadline. So I think I'd be willing to support Mr. Shea's reasoning, logic, experience.
Well, you'll find out this is a pretty well-organized entity.
This was Jimmy Wild, right?
Yeah. They have a lot of credibility, I think, with the community. At least that's my judgment. I don't, hope I'm not.
There's some additional steps to this process. Yeah. There's lots of time to discuss. I think we have a motion on the floor, but I'm not sure we have had a second yet. So.
I'd second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? This is the motion to allow the waiver of the deadline. I guess probably don't need a roll call for that. All those in favor of waiving the deadline?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. So now we need to actually evaluate the eligibility. Do we have a motion with respect to the eligibility?
I'll make a motion. We have funded this program previously. So, consistent with what we did the last time, anybody we've funded before, I think we've gone through the ringer and know that they are eligible. So
If we made a mistake before, we're going to double it.
yeah, we're doubling down.
down.
So I'll make the motion to deem them eligible.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Any further discussion about the eligibility? All right, we have a roll call on that, please.
Chairman Bakey?
Yes?
Vice Chair Biasro?
Yes.
Member DeJesus?
Yes.
Member Lasher?
Yes.
Member Tenzar?
Yes.
Member Shea?
Yes.
Member Budnice?
Yes.
All right, that one, motion passes. Thank you.
All right.
All right, next order of business this evening is actually the first full application this year, which is the CPA application for 635 Middlesex Street. An application has been submitted by RG Realty LLC seeking $261,000 in CPA funding for the restoration and rehabilitation of the historic building at 635 Middlesex Street. I believe we do have somebody representing the proponent. You want to present your project? And
Yeah, is there any way, I sent Peter a PDF. I don't know if you can put it on TV. I didn't print anything out. Oh, yeah. Did you have like a scroller or something? we can start right here, but,
Dylan, can you make it
I'll be able
bigger?
to,
By 300%?
Thank
Little
you.
looking better.
Well, we all move closer.
All right, yeah, so, we wanna go down just to the next page, so, yes, I've been here before, and unfortunately, I'm back. And the reason I'm back, I'll explain right now. There's 4 big reasons why I'm here again. It's because, there were major architectural design delays. And then the second reason was historic tax consultant delays because of the architectural design delays. And then the discovery of significant environmental problems at the site. Finally, securing contractors and pricing for the project. So Dylan, if we go down, and then this is highest and best use. You know, I'm still of the mind that the highest and best use of the property is to create 2 new housing units that are 2 beds, 2 baths in each unit, and then create a business space. That's how it's been used traditionally over the course of the life of the building. But, you know, with the MBTA law that came into effect and everything, you know, if the city is interested in creating a higher housing density, utilizing the building for higher housing density, you know, we could have that conversation and talk about changing the plans, because I know that we need housing. So right now, it's just two units. They're going to be good size units, you know, where somebody could raise a family. They're not going to be little studios. But if the city wants higher density, there's a potential for that there. Or we could just continue with the current plan. Next page, Dylan, please. Yeah, so the big thing was the architect. We commissioned them in October 2022, and we didn't get the plans until about April. And then in April, the plans were not complete, even though we thought we were getting something that we didn't actually get. So it took several more months for them to get the full set of plans late in summer of 2023. And then from there, the historic tax consultants, they had roughly what they needed to proceed with their applications. But then the window drawings were not sufficient enough. So we had to go back to the architect and get even more detailed window drawings and storefront drawings, because the historic guidelines are so strict at the state and federal level. So that put us all the way into basically the summer of this year. And when everything was done and the historic tax consultants had everything they needed from the architect to proceed to get the green light on our applications. So about September of this year, we finally got the green light from the state and the federal government, the National Park Service. All right. And then I did put the plans in there. You know, if anybody wants to see them, there's about 27 pages of this stuff. But it goes into detail about how the windows are going to. The big thing are the windows in the storefront and how they're going to adhere to the historical aspect of the building. And then there were, there's also information in there about how the current floor plans are going to look. They're going to be about 1,100 square foot apartment homes. All right, you can go many pages down. So yeah, this can all be reviewed if you're interested in seeing it. That's cool. Took a while to develop, but they're very detailed. These are the window designs. That took a long time to get all figured out. Stuff for the electrician and the HVAC. These are the site plans. So this is the design, this is what's going to be taking place for the utility upgrade. So water, sprinkler, sewer, stormwater management, all the site work. And then, we go further down. Oh yeah, this is kind of just reiterating upon the historic tax consultants. You guys, I think, have heard of them. Their name is Epsilon Associates. Yeah, they need a lot of information for their applications. But they have everything they need, and then if we scroll down a little bit more, you'll see that we got the letters from the state and the federal government about those applications. Now, the next big thing is the environmental problems. So in June of 2023, we discovered that there's some kind of VOC. It's a volatile organic compound. It's associated with dry cleaning operations, and they did find a presence of it there. So we have a lot of testing was done for over the next 8 months from June of 23. You know, just figuring out what we're up against, and still more testing needs to be done. Basically, they need to send probes down into the well water, or the groundwater, sorry. There's no well water over there, thank God. But the groundwater, and they need to see what's going on with the groundwater. So the groundwater, the testing basically showed that there is going to be significant remediation that needs to be done. And that's going to be, you know, basically cut into the costs, the total budget more. I do have reports of this, and this is all in there. You can look at that too. It's really technical and detailed, but there's like 20 pages of this, and but it's all in there, and it kind of gives you an idea of what we're up against over there. If there was never a dry cleaner there, this probably would have never even been an issue. If it was like office space or used for something else, like that didn't have those types of chemicals, but dry cleaning operations, it's a big red flag. And the reason it's an issue is because that chemical can contaminate other people's properties, and it can also off gas into future residences. So That's why it needs to be remediated properly. So yeah, you can just zoom right through this, Dylan.
LSPs get paid by the page.
I think they do, by the word.
I've been a compliance company for 2 years, trust me, they do.
And then finally, contractor pricing and budget. So pricing, you know, hard costs, material costs, labor costs, they've all remained pretty high since we acquired this property. And some of the original general contractor bids were way into the, you know, upwards of $1.8 million, which just wasn't possible for this size project. So we had to do a lot of shopping around, talking to different supply companies and individual contractors rather than GCs. Because basically the bank only wants to give us about $700,000 based on projected rents and future appraised value. So I basically what you're going to see in the next few pages is the new pricing that I've gotten over the past year, basically, that pretty much gets it under that $700,000 with some additional, you know, if we get some additional grant money through this program or some other program, we should be in the green and have enough money to complete the project. And you'll see, I did on the budget, on the next page down, you'll see some items listed in green, which I'm not sure if the CPC funds can be used for, but, you know, that's up for you guys, for you folks to determine.
Given that we cannot see what is in the green, can you tell us?
Oh, yeah. The big thing, I was wondering maybe about the windows, because the windows and exterior doors and exterior glass, you're looking at about $130,000 just for that. And then masonry work, we're looking at $83,000. The roof is $67,000. Site work that's going to come out of the construction loan. And then what else did I have in there? The 21E remediation, that's going to come out of the construction loan. Could you go down a little bit more? I also had in there, I'm not sure if this is a CPC thing, but maybe the sprinkler or the fire alarm.
Do anything.
No. Okay. So there's some things in there that, you know, I was just putting out there as a suggestion, but it's up for you folks to determine.
Essentially, think about it as the exterior envelope and the sort of core structure of the building.
Okay.
Preserving literally the integrity of the building, or what is sort of visible to the public.
Okay. Yeah, so the masonry, roof, and maybe the foundation.
And the windows.
Yeah.
So, now, I'm not sure, well, Dylan, do you know if I still have access to the original 100,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, if still have access to that, I have that calculated into my budget. So that, I am looking for some more help. So whatever the fund can provide, really. We're pretty close to making this work, with a little bit of additional funding.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And so don't go yet. Turn it over to the members if you have questions, either for the board or for the applicant.
An initial question, when you made the acquisition of the property, were you aware of previous uses, in particular the dry cleaner use?
No, I didn't, that wasn't really, well, first off, the place was mostly gutted, so I didn't really pay attention to that. But then, you know, looking at the exterior of the building, it's right right there on there. So, yeah, then it dawned upon us. But at that point, it was too late anyways, because once you're in the chain of title, you're responsible.
Yeah.
And just for anybody who may be looking at this or discussing this later, who's not privy to some of the other information, what was the original acquisition cost that you?
It was $229. And we have put in about another 220 just in holding costs, engineering,
Sure.
a
Architecture.
lot of soft costs. Actually, a little bit less than that, maybe about 170.
When did you start this?
We acquired it in May 2022.
Because I asked that, I just blinked my eyes and saw 2 or 3 years go by when he first come for the board.
I know, it's,
22.
I can't believe it. Yeah.
I know. Used to be, that cleaners was there for years and years and years.
I don't think I remember.
I
don't
When I remember.
Before my time, too.
I remember when we built the boys club, the cleaners was there then, and that's 45 years ago.
Me.
Yeah, when I got in there wasn't much left. But, the operation must have put some of that chemical in the ground.
All dry cleaner.
And
Yeah,
it
dirty.
never goes
Dirty.
away.
There forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to have to dig it out. I did a couple of years in environmental compliance. There's the forever chemicals. The only way out is to dig it out.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to remediate. I shouldn't say there's always a solution, but most
How
likely
much
you're going to have to dig it out.
Cement it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question just related to the historic architect that you're working with, just given that you are seeking historic preservation funds, and it sounded like maybe the architect fumbled a little bit early on. So just confirming whether or not you feel like you've got a team that really fully understands the historic preservation required at this point, and that, the expectation for the 100 you already have and any additional funds, and that there would be a historic preservation restriction on the property, and that there is that sort of level of compliance expected.
Yeah, the architect was highly recommended by other people I've spoken to, and he's done a lot of work in the city. And Stephen Stoll is very familiar with the gentleman as well. And so that's, I thought, there was a understanding of exactly what I needed for Epsilon, but there must have been some kind of miscommunication that slowed things down, because Epsilon, they want very specific drawings.
Did the architect?
Something that I couldn't draw.
For the state and federal historic tax credits?
Oh, yeah, that was discussed right at the beginning, yeah. So I don't really know what the delay was, what happened, but, yeah, we needed to go back to the architect several times to get everything we needed. And that took some time. Architect, I think, was very busy.
That may have been the core of that issue. Other questions from board members?
Mr. Chair, you picked 635 Middlesex Street. Why?
Well, originally, I had driven by that property, for a long, long time. So it was always just something I always wondered what was going on there. And then I had the opportunity to purchase it, and just went forward with it. I have a lot of we do a lot of residential development, 1 to 4 family homes, not so much mixed use. So the mixed use is kind of a new animal for us. That's why this project is slowed down a lot. Code compliance, the environmental factors, all the design work. It's not as straightforward as just straight residential.
Okay. What, do you have a plan for, it looks like the first floor is supposed to be business,
Yes,
and then the upper 2 floors are gonna be real, for rentals, you said? Rentals? or,
residential homes, yeah, residential.
Is it gonna be condos, or is it gonna be rentals?
Rentals.
Rentals.
Yeah, there's no plan of making them into condos.
Okay. What are you thinking of, because I'm familiar with the area, what are you thinking of for that first floor?
Some people have reached out. There was a convenience store interested in the space, but the space is small and there's not a lot of parking over there, so maybe office space. Definitely no more dry cleaners.
Good answer.
That's fair.
Maybe a little restaurant or something. But basically, whoever would like to move their business in there.
You mentioned historic tax credits, both federal and state. Have you received those?
Yes. Yep.
So you have
We have those conditional approval for the feds and full approval from the state.
Okay.
Do you have an actual allocation from the state? Have they given you an allocation of credits or just determined?
I think it's a full 20% on the QREs.
Well, it is up to, and with the federal, it's once you get that approval, as long as you follow all the rules, you're guaranteed it. With the state, the program is capped. So the Secretary of State and the Historic Preservation Office actually allocate against that cap. There's a further, and I'm sure Epsilon has probably explained this to you as well.
Yeah.
I don't know where you are in that process with getting that allocation of state credits.
Well, there was one of the letters. There was like an award of. It said like $100,000 in
Oh,
credits.
so you've got the first one.
So the first
Yep.
the first round there was an award of $100,000, and then they're going to keep applying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much more beyond that? I'm estimating maybe another 50,000. But yeah,
It's not that easy, so you should
Probably
be
not
pretty
the
proud
full.
that you got that far.
Probably not the full 20%.
Mr. Chairman. You've applied through the state and the feds. Does that require you to stick to the main plan? You mentioned, maybe we can put some housing on the first floor. I guess my question would be is if you're trying to do something, you tell people, well, I'm gonna do this, can you switch plans?
For the historic tax credits?
Yeah, you've told the
I'd
state
have
and
to
the feds.
submit, I'd have to do like an amendment and do, and give them a whole new set of plans and, a new budget. But the consultants would handle all that.
So would they have to redo your whole
I don't think
application?
I don't think the whole thing would have to be, redone, because that would be like an interior change.
Okay.
They're really laser focused on the exterior, like the, Lowell Historic Board is.
Okay. You mentioned environmental. What's been done thus far? Phase 1, phase 2, where are we?
Phase 1, the phase 2, I believe, is the wells,
Okay,
and those have not gone in yet.
okay. What's the plan for that?
Install the wells and determine if the chemical is moving with the groundwater, or if it's isolated on the site.
Sorry, bad question. What's the a timeline? What are you looking at?
That should happen pretty soon, probably within the next month.
Okay. And then once you know that, then it's a question of remediation.
Correct. They'll come up with a plan to contain it or dig it out.
So right now, you don't have any idea what you're going to be facing for environmental costs?
I've had estimates from the LSPs. It's probably going to be upwards of $100,000. If it's isolated to the site. If it's gone off the site, it could be even worse.
Okay.
So the groundwater analysis will let them determine all that.
I throw it out to the board because you guys have a whole lot more experience than I do. I'm curious, in that area, I remember that area. I mean, how many businesses would go in there And would it be a better idea or more, a better idea to use it for housing? I'm curious, I have no idea. I just remember the boys club and I remember that building sitting next to it and wonder what you could attract for a business in there.
Yeah, it's not an easy sell for a lot of businesses.
I will say that just what we are seeing, our neighborhood business districts seem to be doing significantly better than the core downtown business districts. That's been pretty true, like across the neighborhood business district. Cambodia Town in particular, which is where this property is located, does have pretty low vacancy. And when they do have vacancy, tend to have pretty quick turnaround. This is a little further up the street, you know, so it's like a little bit removed from like Palin and that concentration there. But this actually does happen to be an area where we haven't, my office hasn't had to do much direct intervention to help get properties occupied in that district, which, you know, anecdotally tells us that, you know, things happen there kind of naturally. That being said, you know, it is a little bit further up the street, so things might be slightly different. But Cambodia Town in general has a pretty strong small business economy that does pretty well there.
I will say the convenience store gentleman that approached me, he was I think he was a Cambodian fella. I think that's kind of why he has another store somewhere else in the city.
Jimmy, could you just give us I noticed you have an estimated annual income, monthly income of $8,000.
Yes.
Could you tell us the breakdown of that?
Yeah, so that basically puts the commercial space at 2,500.
And what
And
are
then
the units gonna go for?
And then the units should retail for like 27. Yeah. I mean, by the time this is all done, it might be less.
How many square feet?
The spaces are only about 1,100 square feet. Yeah.
Still good. It's the market, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
2,700.
Oh, yeah, all day, all day.
For brand new, brand new
Very expensive.
with laundry in unit and off-street parking.
Oh, yeah, no, that's a very
Wow.
good price.
You can get more.
actually.
You can get more than that.
Do it.
Yeah, you can get more than that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This is why everybody talks about housing.
That's right. Welcome to the, yeah.
Build it here.
Oh, yeah, that price is very competitive sounding.
The only thing I worry about is, you know, the location, but I do know my neighbor across the street, it looks like they're building up, doing something over there, assuming housing, so.
But I want to tell you, you go buy that unit, you go buy that place anytime between 11 and 2, it's a beehive of activity. I'm telling you. I go over there occasionally, I have friends over there. I'm telling you, it's a beehive activity. Not a very, it's really busy.
Well, the new Boys and Girls Club renovations, that's gonna, I think, really change the area.
Community and everything is pretty
So-
aggressive, yeah.
I think having a little housing right there and a little business, it should blossom.
I have a couple of questions about your pro forma.
Yep.
Just trying to understand how you have accounted for the historic credits, especially given what's typically a little bit of uncertainty around the state historic credits. Are they already all plugged in when you estimate what your gap is, and that generated the 261 you're asking us for? Or are you being, and frankly, I would say appropriately conservative with respect to what you might get in terms of the state historic tax credits?
Yeah, so I had in there, I plan on using the state tax credits to inject capital right back into the project, not put it in my own pocket or anything. The federal, you can't do anything with those, unfortunately. You can't you can't monetize them.
Well, you can, but you'll do that at a price and it'll cost way too much for a project.
That's what I've heard. It's extremely expensive to do that. So definitely monetize the states, put them back into the project, and then And I think the 150 is pretty conservative, even after you sell them for like at 80 cents on the dollar or whatever it is. So I think that's pretty conservative. I have that in there, and that along with, the 100,000 CPC from last time, and then a little bit of additional CPC funds would get us under that $700,000 construction loan number. So that is in the figure.
My other question for you is, I may have asked you this last time you came here, but have you had conversations with the LDFC about taking out a loan? I realize it's not a grant like this is, but a loan on a second position loan behind the construction, when the construction loan becomes a permanent.
Yeah.
Have you explored that option at all? I think, as you probably heard the other night when we were on Zoom, hearing all those eligibility applications, there is way more interest in the historic preservation funds than we have. So we are going to be trying to steer folks to also consider this historic preservation loan fund that we capitalized a couple of years ago at the LDFC. Have you had conversations with them? Have you explored anything?
Yes. Yep. We had a big meeting actually, and they seem to be behind it, and they will fill that gap if the grant money can't. It just at that point there's almost no cash flow. That's the only problem.
Yep.
So it's almost negative with the current interest rates and the total combined debt of the first and second mortgage. So, but you know, negative cash flow is not always a bad thing. So.
Not ideal.
As long as you got positive somewhere else. Yeah, as long as you can get something else, yeah.
Well, someday it will be positive.
Good, I like it. I like it.
Any other questions from the board? I should clarify, which I didn't at the beginning, I was remiss. We are not actually making determinations this evening because we need to basically have these conversations with all the applicants and have over a number of meetings, and at the conclusion of that, we will evaluate all the proposals. And that'll probably be January.
No, I understand. I know the fund is not that big too, so I just wanted to try again. But I have the Allison at the LHDC, I am prepared to go down that road as well.
Great. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Thanks, Ellen.
I don't think we have any continued business, other business, or notices. Only Dan gets to comment under number 6. And
What do we got?
further comments from planning board members.
You don't want my comment on the planning board.
Suppose we can open this up to all members.
Bit off more you could chew, huh?
Oh, my God, yeah. What the hell? Where was I thinking? My kid said I needed a hobby. Like, it's not a hobby. That's like a full-time job.
You're gonna believe it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would ask under the other business, should we wait until a future date to firm up the eligibility deadlines? Should we look at one point to make some form of a motion or something to put that out? We can wait till maybe after this season to do that, but I just didn't know when we should.
Well, I think we typically set those when we set the calendar, right?
That is typically, so we set calendar last meeting.
Okay, and so maybe just.
There are deadlines on that?
So we set the deadlines for fall 25?
Yes. I can, if you want to give me a minute.
I only mean, at that point, maybe just put language in that, we're working to the firm deadline.
Yeah, that might
something like
just
that
be
when
like
the time comes.
about like when we advertise it, is the availability
Yeah.
of funding too, just making clear that we're being a little.
We're gonna hold
Right.
it harder as best we
I
can.
guess I have a slightly different opinion about our deadline. I think if we set a deadline, we should follow it. But I am a little concerned. I have always been a little concerned about the way the calendar falls, and that our deadline for eligibility applications is like right after Labor Day. Everybody's sort of just getting back from the summer, and there's not a lot of. It's not surprising to me that. And, it would be nice to be able to give people a couple more weeks of sort of when everybody's back from summer vacations and whatever else to submit their eligibility applications. I don't really think we our process this year is not suffering because this one came in 2 weeks later. It got onto an agenda. We were able to evaluate it. So I think maybe we might want to think about a firm deadline, but also having.
Pushing
Yeah,
them
I think we
later,
could probably
yeah.
achieve those
Yeah.
goals, yeah.
I keep looking at Dylan because I know he has to like manage
Right.
collecting all those applications,
And you
and
get-
comments and all that. And that's
Yeah.
part of why it's where it is.
Mhm.
But it seems like maybe there's a little
Mm-hmm.
wiggle room there, maybe.
So what you're saying is we need more time. So why not set, instead of September 1st, you set October 1st? And then there's plenty of time as a deadline, if we want a deadline. I'm a big fan of deadlines, because nothing gets done without them.
We have to have a deadline because
Correct.
the rest of our, I guess we don't have to. Some community preservation committees don't have any deadlines at all, and their whole process is pretty inherently rolling. There are others who are literally out there trying to like gather projects. There are some that don't really accept applications. They actually figure out what projects they want to do in some communities. But the way we have set up our process, which may or may not be the right thing, I'm not saying it's perfect, it can change, but we do this annual cycle. And if we are going to continue with that model, there is a point at which we do have to have a firm deadline because people need to know that they're eligible and be able to apply, and all the applications have to be in and heard by a certain time so that we can then evaluate them all and get it back to the city council in time so they can have some time to deliberate before they have to actually build it into the budget.
For staffing purposes, I like the fact that we don't have rolling applications. Just being able to know when to expect, when we're going to be heavy on CPC stuff, we can plan staffing accordingly. So to me, if we're interested in like shifting our deadlines around and maybe giving people more time to get the eligibility applications in, I'd be totally down for that conversation, but shifting it more dramatically than that, I think just like for a purely staffing purpose is not something that I, as the director of the department, would want to see.
And Dylan doesn't want to.
That would not be an episode.
Can I ask, is there anything statutorily or just operationally that restricts when we can put it before the council? Obviously before their budget, but.
It's ultimately driven by, we give them plenty of time, but it is tied to, originally it was tied to something related to their budget in the spring, that they needed to have made their decisions that they were definitely appropriating this. But there's a pretty big window between when we've been getting our recommendations to them and that deadline. I think our whole process could probably shift
That's what I was
a month or two.
Maybe we slide back a month so that it doesn't.
Probably wouldn't be a problem. The only thing that might be a problem is if we got to a place where this board has actually been really good at sort of going through what's often a fairly complicated set of applications and making recommendations pretty efficiently. That might not always be the case. There might be a year where we have some really tricky ones, and I think we originally kind of built the schedule assuming it might take us a couple of meetings to resolve sometimes. That hasn't been the pattern. I don't know, maybe this year, we'll see.
Well,
So
some
there might be a
obstinate people
little
here.
room there,
Yeah, the blood.
And the first year, the council actually used a lot of the time the first year because they spent a bit of time trying to sort of get themselves oriented around this program and deciding how they wanted to hear about the applications and then scheduling, getting them all to come into a subcommittee and have taken the subcommittee recommendations back to the full council. That process did take a while the first year. I think they've got it a little smoother and that the last year or so.
So they do the same thing that we do?
They do a version of it. So the way this program works,
They do a review.
it's required by the law that it's a two-step process. The Community Preservation Committee, which is what we are, has to make recommendations. We do not have the authority to appropriate funds. City Council does. So the City Council is the entity that has to do the actual appropriation of funds. They cannot appropriate any CPC funds without a positive recommendation from us, but they can decide not to appropriate something that we did recommend. So that's why it's a two-step effort. We have to make our recommendations to them. They then have to decide to appropriate. What has not happened, although we came pretty close at least once, they could also basically ask us to reconsider something. And that's another reason to have a bigger window of
Tell
time.
them that.
I tell you,
I mean, you're not on the council anymore. It's a lot easier than it used to be.
the process is really, I mean, from here to the council, to their subcommittee, to the manager, to the planning department, there's a lot of people look at what we're doing, and it's really quite a process. I mean, it's a long journey, and when the money's finally awarded, it's gone through 3 or 4 different reviews. And of course, the planning department, you know, plays a big role because the manager's saying to them, what's your opinion? And in the funding, and, you know, some projects are gonna get started next year. Well, we won't fund it this year. I've learned that. I've learned the chairman in the planning department, sometimes they'll only fund a little bit because, well, let's wait to next year. And then the funding, sometimes, as Jim had indicated earlier, and I read your email asking, could you give us a breakdown, which I thought was, I like that, because now I know what some of the breakdown is of the funding. It's quite a process, and it starts here, and there's a lot of good eyes looking at it. It's a very good discussion.
Are we looking to just pare down, or are we looking to say, hey, listen, these are the ones we recommend?
That's right.
What, more a bullet or more shotgun approach?
No, like it's a specific recommendation for the amount and the project.
So we're not giving them, hey, listen, these are
We
the
like
7.
these projects.
These are the
No,
7.
no.
Yeah, pick the ones you like.
No, it would be
We
like,
have to give them precise recommendations.
we would say
Okay.
like for this 635 Middlesex Street, for example, he's asking for what, 260? You know, we would recommend 100.
Oh, it's such a prize.
Yeah.
Yeah, or we can
Or we
cull
could
them
say
out.
nothing and just say
Yeah.
nothing for that one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
And
then
we do
they can cull it down further from there if they'd like.
Mm-hmm.
We do also have the ability, when we get down to that deliberation process, we actually do not have to recommend funding any of the applications. We don't have to recommend funding the full amount we have available to us. We could decide that, well, this particular group of applications isn't really all that strong. Let's basically put the money in reserve, and then a year from now, we may get a really strong, bigger application, and that's what we want to fund.
Do we
We
try
haven't
to,
done that in the past. We've generally, other than the fact that there are the 3 10% set asides, if we don't have applications for those, we have put those in reserve.
Mhm.
Other than that, we have recommended each year distribution of the full amount available. But there's nothing that says we have to.
so Matt had asked, you know, how is this broken down? And do we, when we give recommendations, do we say, this is in this basket, this is in that basket? Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Yep.
That's all. Cool.
I like that email asking for the breakdown.
I only got one a year, so that's it.
He's done. We have no use for him anymore. He's done.
Thank you. I do have one other, does the council, this is one I wasn't aware, does the council have the ability to cull our recommendations down monetarily?
Yeah.
Is there just a yes, no, or they can
Oh,
say,
no,
no,
no.
instead of 100, we'll give you 50?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they can't
They
pick,
can't, but they couldn't make it 150.
Right,
they
they can't go
can't
up.
pick what we don't pick.
Correct.
Correct.
They'd make us go back and have to reconsider.
They need a positive, affirmative recommendation from us
Nice.
to be
I
able.
wasn't sure they could cull it down. Okay.
There's never been a problem, I'll tell you. This committee works hard at it, you know, and in the planning department. The process it goes through, that it, at least that's.
We're gonna jinx this.
That's the.
Wait a second.
One or two counts.
Knock on
You ready
some
for
wood.
it?
Chairman speaks slow.
He said, well, don't jinx us.
I advocated for something last year, was sat in this room, and I advocated strongly for it, and they felt so bad, I think they put us tight 5,000 for the game. I forget what it was, but you can see how persuasive I was. They felt fair, we'll give, felt good argument, motion put in, I think it was 10,000. No, it's just, there's a very good debate, and it's healthy, and for me, it's been educational.
And so that debate, we keep all our notes and then we all come in and we go through in one meeting,
Yeah.
kind of, or two, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
And the applicants are sometimes in the room, but they're not here to do a presentation. Last year, like, we were able, if we had questions, to ask them questions, but it was really like it was not an open forum. It was really just the council deliberating.
This was a great room to do it in. For
I agree.
that meeting. That was really great in this room, because it's this kind of.
Yeah.
around the table
Yeah,
setting.
it's not spread out.
It's really hard to do it the one year we did it in the city council chambers, where you couldn't like see each other.
We can take over the chairs.
Yeah.
Take over the chairs.
I think this is a better place to meet than the city hall, city.
I agree.
Mayor's reception.
Very long commute for me.
Yeah, I know, everyone's a commute, I realize.
As you know,
Makes his commute tough.
we can hear,
Yeah.
we can hear the dialogue in the
Yeah.
chamber. Depends on the side of the chamber
Yeah.
you're sitting on.
Sure.
Fair.
But no, it's pretty
You
educational.
wanna put that in a form of a motion?
No.
Someone's listening. Take care of it.
I'll leave that up to the chair.
He's gonna wield his influence.
The staff.
I'll be the one if you
Very
want
seldom he's here, but
to make the motion to adjourn if you want, if everybody's
Do we have a
ready to go.
second?
Yeah. So I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right.
Oh, man, yeah.
All right, all those in favor? You know,
Aye.
overrule Dan.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I suspect the next meeting is going to be considerably longer than this one. so
And it's
plan
the
accordingly.
7th, right? We added it. That's what I thought. Yeah.